Millionaire CEO spots a young woman in the pouring rain, holding a cardboard sign that reads, "Please help anything." She's soaked to the bone, clutching a crying baby, and something deep inside him, long locked away, tells him to stop. He offers them shelter for just one night, but when he returns to his mansion days later, what he finds inside leaves him speechless and changes everything he thought he knew about life, love, and second chances. If stories like this move you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now enjoy the story. It was just after dawn when Alex Grayson, a powerful finance executive, sat in the back of his black SUV on his way to the airport. Rain slammed against the windows, fogging the glass. As the car stopped at a red light, he saw her, a young woman soaked through, curled over a crying baby beneath a flickering street lamp. She held a cardboard sign, "Please help, anything." Something inside him shifted, a feeling he couldn't identify after years of emotional numbness. The woman's hair clung to her face as she tried to shield the infant from the relentless downpour. Their vulnerability contrasted sharply with the sterile comfort of his leather interior, his pressed suit, his scheduled life. Alex had meetings waiting, deals to close, an empire to maintain, yet he couldn't tear his gaze away from the desperation in her eyes. Without thinking, he lowered the window, told his driver to stop, and opened the door. "Get in," he said. She hesitated, clutching the baby tight against her chest. Trust was clearly a currency she could no longer afford. The baby's cries grew more insistent as another gust of rain struck them. Her eyes darted between his face and the warm interior, calculating unseen risks. She looked ready to run, but the baby's whimpers seemed to make the decision for her. "I'm Olivia," she whispered, sliding into the seat, bringing with her the scent of rain and desperation. "This is Lily." Alex nodded, not asking for details. The driver's eyes met his in the rearview mirror, silently questioning. Alex gave a single nod, and the car pulled away from the curb, leaving behind the flickering street lamp and the cardboard sign now dissolving in the rain. Minutes later, they pulled up to his mansion in Westchester. The sprawling estate emerged from morning mist like a castle from another century, imposing and isolated. Alex called Miriam, his longtime housekeeper, who appeared at the doorway with concern etched into the lines around her eyes. "She can stay one night," he instructed, already removing his tie as he headed toward his study. Olivia stood in the marble entryway, water pooling beneath her worn shoes. Lily had quieted, her tiny fists no longer clenched in distress. The house smelled of cedar and citrus, wealth and emptiness. Miriam's gentle hand on Olivia's shoulder guided her inside. The older woman's eyes held no judgment, only a quiet compassion that made Olivia's throat tighten. "Let's get you both warm," Miriam said softly, leading them toward the guest wing. Olivia followed, trying not to stare at the paintings adorning the walls, each one worth more than everything she'd ever owned. For the first time in months, Olivia had food, a hot shower, a warm room, and a mattress. The guest suite was larger than her last apartment, with plush carpeting and windows overlooking manicured gardens. She placed Lily gently on the bed, surrounded by pillows to keep her from rolling. The baby's eyes were already closing, exhaustion finally claiming her now that she was warm and safe. Olivia stood under the shower until the water ran clear, washing away months of struggle from her skin, if not from her memory. Clean clothes waited for her, simple but expensive loungewear that Miriam had provided. The soft fabric felt foreign against her skin, another reminder of how far she had fallen. She ate the sandwich Miriam brought, each bite a reminder of forgotten pleasures. Lily slept peacefully, her small chest rising and falling in a rhythm that had become Olivia's only prayer. Night fell, and Alex's car disappeared down the long driveway. From her window, Olivia watched the taillights vanish into darkness. She didn't know what had compelled him to stop, why this stranger had opened his door when others had only locked theirs tighter. His kindness felt like a cosmic mistake, one that would surely be corrected by morning. She traced Lily's sleeping face with her finger, memorizing every detail in case tomorrow brought them back to the streets. The mansion stood quiet and imposing against the storm, a temporary harbor in the endless sea of their struggle. Olivia wondered about the man who owned it. What sorrows or joys had shaped him? What had made him stop when no one else would? In the morning, she would leave with nothing more than renewed strength and the memory of warmth. That was the bargain she made with herself as she curled beside Lily. She thought it was just shelter for one night, But the house was already beginning to feel like something far more dangerous. Hope. And hope, Olivia had learned the hard way, was the cruelest visitor of all. Morning arrived with unfamiliar gentleness. Sunlight filtering through expensive curtains, the distant sound of kitchenware, and the absence of fear that had been Olivia's constant companion. She sat at the breakfast table, watching Miriam prepare scrambled eggs with practiced ease. The first bite melted in her mouth, rich, buttery, seasoned perfectly. How long had it been since she'd tasted real food? Months of scraps and charity meals had dulled her palate, made her forget that food could be more than just survival. Lily cooed in her arms, tiny hands reaching toward the colors on her plate. "She likes the yellow," Miriam observed with a smile that reached her eyes. "Children always see beauty first." Olivia nodded, something warm and forgotten expanding in her chest at the sight of her daughter experiencing simple joy. The kitchen smelled of coffee and possibility, a fragrance Olivia had stopped believing in months ago. Miriam refilled her plate without asking, her movements carrying the gentle assurance that there was enough food, enough time, enough kindness to fill the hollow spaces inside both mother and child. The bathroom in the guest suite was larger than her last apartment. Olivia filled the tub with warm water, testing it obsessively before lowering Lily into it. Her daughter's laughter echoed against marble walls as she splashed, each giggle a precious gift Olivia had thought lost forever. She washed Lily's dark curls with expensive shampoo that smelled of lavender and childhood innocence. Afterward, she wrapped her in a soft robe that swallowed her tiny frame. In the mirror, they looked like visitors from another world, clean, warm, momentarily safe. Olivia touched her own reflection, barely recognizing the woman staring back. Beneath the exhaustion and fear, traces of who she used to be remained. She brushed her hair, borrowed moisturizer for her chapped hands, applied lip balm to her cracked lips. Small rituals of humanity she'd abandoned in the fight for survival now seemed vitally important. "Remember who you are," she whispered to her reflection, though the woman looking back seemed like a stranger wearing her face. Carlos, Alex's driver, returned in the afternoon with bags from local stores. "Mr. Grayson called," he explained, setting down packages containing diapers, formula, clothes, and a small stuffed elephant that Lily immediately embraced. "He asked that I bring these for you and the little one." Olivia's throat tightened with emotion she couldn't express. These weren't just items, they were dignity restored in small, tangible pieces. Miriam arranged everything in the guest room dresser, explaining that Alex had instructed them to provide anything they needed. "He'll be away for 3 days," she said, folding tiny onesies with grandmotherly precision. Olivia nodded, not trusting her voice. 3 days. The universe had granted her 72 precious hours of sanctuary. She held the stuffed elephant, its soft grey fur and kind button eyes bringing unexpected tears. She couldn't remember the last time Lily had owned a toy, something that wasn't necessary for survival, but existed purely to bring joy. What kind of man thought to send a stuffed animal along with practical necessities? That evening, Olivia fed Lily warm food prepared by Miriam, pureed vegetables and fruit that colored her daughter's mouth in happy smears of orange and purple. For the first time in forever, Lily ate until she was satisfied, not just until the food ran out. After dinner, Carlos brought more supplies, books, a portable crib, even a small music box that played a lullaby. "My sister's children grew out of these," he said. Though Olivia suspected the newness of the items told a different story. She placed Lily in the crib, watching her daughter stretch luxuriously across the clean sheets, unaware of their good fortune. "Sleep well, my brave girl," she whispered, throat tight with gratitude and fear of what would come after. The music box played its gentle melody, filling the room with notes that seemed to rearrange the broken pieces of Olivia's heart. She wound it again and again, memorizing the sound, storing it away for colder nights to come. Lily's eyelids fluttered closed, her breathing deepening into peaceful sleep, a small miracle in itself. Olivia sat by the window long after Lily had fallen asleep, watching rain return to batter the manicured gardens. In the distance, the city lights blurred into a hazy glow, the world she'd been cast from. Part of her wanted to pack what they could carry and disappear into the night, before gratitude could turn into debt. Another part, the part that remembered ambition, education, dreams, whispered dangerous suggestions about staying, asking for help, rebuilding. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass. How could she trust this sudden kindness, when life had taught her that everything came with a price? Yet in the safety of this room, with her daughter finally peaceful, Olivia allowed herself to imagine a different ending to their story. Perhaps Alex Grayson was simply a good man doing a good thing. Perhaps the universe was balancing its ledgers after taking so much from them. Perhaps she deserved help after fighting alone for so long. "Can we stay until he returns?" she asked Miriam the next morning, the words tumbling out before courage deserted her. Miriam's eyes softened. "Of course, dear. This house could use some life in it." She closed her eyes, thinking she'd rest. But inside those walls, her past was waking up too. With each comfort embraced, each kindness accepted, memories she'd buried for survival clawed their way to the surface, demanding to be felt. Once Olivia had worn a white coat with her name embroidered above the pocket. Dr. Sullivan, future pediatrician, her professor's favorite, the one they said had healing hands. Her small apartment near the medical school had been filled with textbooks, plants, and photographs of her parents, both teachers who'd sacrificed everything for her education. Olivia traced the ghost of that life as she walked through Alex's garden the next morning, Lily babbling happily in her arms. The roses, heavy with raindrops, reminded her of the bouquet her father had brought when she'd been accepted to medical school. "You'll heal the world," he'd said, believing it completely. She could still see her mother's tears of pride, feel the weight of their expectations and love. She'd been their miracle, the first in the family to attend college, let alone medical school. Their faith in her had been absolute, unwavering. Now wandering among Alex's perfect roses, Olivia felt the phantom weight of her stethoscope around her neck, heard the echo of hospital corridors in her memory. She had been so close to becoming who she was meant to be. 3 months before her final year of medical school, both her parents died when a truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. Their insurance barely covered the funeral. Olivia received the call during anatomy lab, her hands deep in the chest cavity of a cadaver. Professor Mitchell drove her to identify the bodies, waited while she collapsed against the cold wall of the morgue, then took her home to his family for 3 days, while she existed in a fog of disbelief. "Take time," the medical school dean had told her, "but come back to us." The apartment felt cavernous without her parents' weekly calls, their care packages, their unwavering support. She tried to return to classes 2 weeks later, but the words in her textbooks blurred into meaningless patterns. Her hands, once steady during procedures, now trembled. The grief counselor at the university called it acute bereavement. Olivia called it drowning on dry land. Depression had come not as dramatic darkness but as quiet emptiness, colors fading, food losing taste, lectures becoming indecipherable noise. She'd taken a leave of absence, promising to return. The days blended together, marked only by the changing light through her apartment windows. Then came Christopher, charming, attentive, 15 years older. She met him at a coffee shop where she'd gone to escape her silent apartment. He listened when she spoke of her parents, brought her tea when she couldn't sleep, held her when grief became a physical ache. "You're not alone anymore," he'd promised, his voice a lifeline she clung to. He understood pain, he said, having lost his wife years earlier. His stories matched her sorrow perfectly, creating a false intimacy that felt like salvation. Olivia, who had always been careful, logical, responsible, surrendered to the comfort he offered. She didn't notice how he isolated her from friends, how his financial troubles became hers, how his temporary stay in her apartment stretched into months. By the time she discovered her savings emptied and a pregnancy test turned positive, Christopher had vanished. His last text, "You'll be a great mother. That's always what you wanted, right?" Olivia stood in her bathroom, staring at the pink line that divided her life into before and after, while calls to Christopher's phone went straight to voicemail. The bank confirmed what she already suspected. Her accounts had been systematically drained over months. Her educational fund, her parents' life insurance, her small inheritance, all gone. The lease on her apartment had been terminated. Christopher had forged her signature. The university's re-enrollment deadline had passed. In 6 brutal weeks, Olivia lost her future, her home, and her belief in her own judgment. The medical school offered sympathy but no solutions. Former friends expressed shock but had lives of their own. The pregnancy advanced, bringing morning sickness that lasted all day, exhaustion that sleep couldn't cure, and the terrifying knowledge that she was entirely responsible for another life. Shame kept her from reaching out to former professors or classmates. How could she admit that brilliant Olivia Sullivan had been so thoroughly deceived? She took whatever work she could find, waitressing until her pregnancy showed, then cleaning offices at night, sleeping in her car between shifts. Each paycheck disappeared immediately, Food, prenatal vitamins, gas, parking fees to keep the car in safe areas. When Lily arrived, premature but perfect, Olivia held her with trembling hands in a hospital where she'd once hoped to work. "We'll be okay," she whispered, not believing it. The medical bills devoured her remaining resources. Winter came early and brutal. The car was repossessed after she prioritized Lily's antibiotics over the payment. Shelters were overcrowded, their rules and restrictions sometimes forcing them back onto the streets. Each day became a desperate calculation: diapers or food, shelter or medicine. She applied for assistance, but bureaucracy moved slowly, and Lily's needs couldn't wait. She closed her eyes, letting Alex's garden fade as the memories receded. How strange that she could still feel the weight of her dreams even now, after everything. Lily touched her face, small fingers tracing the tear Olivia hadn't realized she'd shed. Her past haunted her, but in this mansion, she began to remember who she used to be and wanted to believe she could become that person again. The woman who healed, who fought, who believed in better tomorrows. "Maybe we get second chances," she whispered to Lily, who smiled as if she understood the weight of those words. Maybe here, in this unexpected sanctuary, Olivia could rebuild. Not the same life that was gone forever, but something new, something sturdy enough to weather whatever storm still waited. She thought the worst had already happened, but fate hadn't finished testing her just yet. The following afternoon, Olivia sat in the sunroom reading a medical journal she'd found in Alex's library. Lily played nearby on a blanket, surrounded by the simple toys Carlos had brought. Outside, rain had given way to tentative sunshine that filtered through tall windows, casting warm patterns across the floor. Olivia's fingers traced familiar medical terms, her mind awakening to concepts she'd once known intimately. The journal was recent, only 6 months old, and featured advancements in pediatric care she would have studied had her life continued on its intended path. Lily babbled happily, rolling onto her stomach to reach a colored block. The sound of her daughter's laughter felt incongruous in this mansion of marble and silence, yet somehow perfect. For this moment, Olivia allowed herself to forget the temporary nature of their situation, the inevitable return to uncertainty. She leaned down to adjust Lily's position, smiling as tiny hands reached for her face. The sound of the front door opening came without warning. Olivia froze, journal forgotten in her lap. Miriam had gone grocery shopping. Carlos wasn't scheduled to return until evening. Footsteps echoed on marble, approaching the sunroom with deliberate pace. Alex Grayson appeared in the doorway, still in his travel clothes, his expression unreadable. His flight had been cancelled, weather in Chicago making connections impossible. Olivia stood quickly. Lily clutched protectively against her chest. "I'm sorry," she began, though she wasn't entirely sure what she was apologizing for. Existing in his space, accepting his charity, disrupting the quiet of his home. Alex said nothing for a long moment, his gaze moving from Olivia to Lily, then to the scattered toys, the journal, the 2 empty teacups on the side table, evidence of life in rooms designed for display. "I didn't expect," he started, then stopped, seeming to recalibrate his thoughts. Lily chose that moment to laugh, reaching toward Alex with curious fingers, as if he were an interesting new toy to explore. As he entered the sunroom, Alex followed the sound of laughter, like a man emerging from darkness into light. He stood watching Olivia and Lily playing with toys in the sunlit room. For the first time he saw the house warm, alive, like a place someone would actually want to live in. The crystal vase that had always been merely decorative now held wildflowers from the garden, clearly picked by inexperienced hands. Lily's blanket added a splash of color to the otherwise pristine decor. Books had been removed from shelves, actually read instead of displayed. Alex loosened his tie, suddenly aware of how sterile his home had been before these strangers arrived. The realization wasn't unpleasant. "I apologize for startling you," he said finally, his voice softer than Olivia expected. "The Chicago meetings were cancelled." He stepped closer, seemingly fascinated by Lily's animated expressions. "She seems happy here," he observed, and something in his tone suggested surprise, as if happiness was a rare visitor to these rooms. Olivia, startled, tried to explain. "Miriam said we could stay until you returned. I'm sorry if that wasn't what you intended. We can leave immediately." The words tumbled out as she began gathering Lily's things, movements frantic with the fear of being cast out again. Alex raised a hand, the gesture silencing her apologies. "There's no need," he said simply. Miriam appeared in the doorway, her arms full of groceries, apologetic explanations ready. She admitted she had allowed Olivia to stay longer. "I thought it would be all right, Mr. Grayson. The house seems better with them here." Alex said nothing, just watched as Lily continued her determined attempt to reach him from Olivia's arms. His silence wasn't cold or threatening, but contemplative, as if he were working through an unexpected equation. Finally, he extended a single finger toward Lily, who grasped it immediately with surprising strength. "She has good instincts," he murmured, the faintest smile touching his lips. "Perhaps better than mine." That night, over a quiet dinner prepared by Miriam, Olivia shared her story. The words came haltingly at first, then with increasing fluidity as Alex listened without interruption. She told him about medical school, her parents' deaths, Christopher's deception, her desperate months on the street. She didn't embellish or minimize, simply stated the facts of her fall from promise to poverty. Alex listened, really listened, for the first time in years. His questions were few but insightful, focusing not on her mistakes but on the system that had failed her: medical debt, inadequate social services, predatory relationships. "Your daughter," he said finally, when Olivia had fallen silent. "She seems remarkably resilient." Olivia nodded, throat tight with emotion. "She's never known anything different. Sometimes I think she's stronger than I am." As if summoned by the conversation, Lily reached from her high chair toward Alex. Without hesitation, he let her hold his finger again. This time, the slight smile that crossed his face reached his eyes, warming them momentarily. He gave her shelter, but what she gave back was something no money could buy. The realization struck Alex with unexpected force as he watched Olivia put Lily to bed later that evening. From the doorway, he observed the gentle ritual, the soft words, the lullaby, the tender kiss on the forehead. Such simple actions, yet filled with a love so pure it made his chest ache with recognition of what his life lacked. His mansion, with its perfect furnishings and empty rooms, had never witnessed such genuine moments. The wealth he'd accumulated, the power he wielded in boardrooms across the country, none of it created the simple peace that radiated from the scene before him. Olivia caught his gaze as she turned from the crib, her expression questioning. "I had a sister once," he said quietly, offering the information like a rare gift. "She would have been about your age now." The past tense hung between them, a bridge neither was ready to cross. But something had shifted, a wall beginning to crumble between their separate worlds. For the first time, Alex didn't leave for the office at precisely 7:15 the next morning. Instead, he worked from home, laptop open in the study, while Olivia and Lily explored the garden. From his window he could see them moving among the roses, Lily's delighted gestures and Olivia's gentle guidance, creating a tableau he found himself watching more than his financial reports. During lunch, he joined them on the terrace, the conversation awkward at first, then easing into comfortable exchanges about the garden, the approaching summer, Lily's newest achievements. Olivia noticed how he listened with complete attention, a quality rare in a world of constant distraction. She found herself sharing small details about Lily's development, her preferences, her personality emerging more clearly each day. Alex asked intelligent questions, remembering details from previous conversations. For a man who commanded financial empires, he showed surprising interest in the milestones of a child who had nothing to offer him but smiles. Miriam observed the changing dynamics with quiet satisfaction. The house felt different, alive with Lily's laughter, warmed by Olivia's gentle presence and, most surprisingly, transformed by Alex's gradual thawing. She had worked for him for 15 years, witnessing his retreat into isolation after personal tragedies he never discussed. Now she watched him pause in hallways to listen for Lily's voice, adjust his schedule to join them for meals, even suggest improvements to the garden to make it safer for a curious toddler. "You've been here a week now," Miriam mentioned to Olivia while they prepared dinner together. A week, the realization startled Olivia. The temporary shelter had stretched beyond all expectation, yet still felt tentative, unspoken. "He hasn't asked us to leave," Olivia replied cautiously. Miriam smiled knowingly. "He won't," she said simply, and returned to chopping vegetables with practiced ease. Olivia, startled by Alex's continued presence, tried repeatedly to explain her situation and plans. Each time he listened politely, then changed the subject or made practical suggestions that extended her stay. A pediatrician appointment for Lily, scheduling interviews with potential employers, researching educational programs Olivia might qualify for with her partially completed medical training. Miriam admitted she had allowed Olivia to stay because she saw something in the young woman that reminded her of her own daughter, now living across the country. This house needed life, she confided, while helping Olivia organize baby clothes. And Mr. Grayson needed, she paused, searching for the right word, reminding. When Olivia asked what he needed reminding of, Miriam simply smiled. That not everything valuable appears on a balance sheet. The cryptic answer lingered in Olivia's mind as she observed Alex's gradual integration into their daily routine. That night, over a quiet dinner after Lily had been put to bed, Olivia gathered her courage. "Why are you helping us?" she asked directly, unable to contain the question any longer. Alex considered her over his wineglass, his expression thoughtful rather than offended. "Does it matter?" he countered. Olivia nodded firmly. "It does to me. Nothing in life comes without expectations. I need to understand yours." The bluntness of her response seemed to please rather than annoy him. He set down his glass carefully. "My sister was like you," he said finally. "Brilliant, determined, full of potential. She fell in love with the wrong man, trusted too easily." His voice remained steady, but Olivia saw something painful flash behind his eyes. "She didn't survive her mistake, you did. Perhaps helping you is my way of balancing an equation that can never truly be solved." The confession hung between them, unexpected and raw. "I'm sorry," Olivia whispered. Alex shook his head slightly. "Don't be. Your strength honors her memory more than my regret ever could." They don't talk much after that. They don't need to. Something is forming. Slowly, silently. Days develop a comfortable rhythm. Olivia helps Miriam with household tasks, reads medical journals from Alex's library, takes Lily for walks in the expansive gardens. Alex works from home more frequently, his schedule adjusting around Lily's nap times and meals without explicit acknowledgement. Sometimes they sit together in the evening, reading in companionable silence while Lily sleeps. Olivia notices how he begins leaving medical texts on the coffee table, subtle encouragement of interests she thought abandoned. He notices how she organizes his chaotic bookshelves, bringing order to neglected corners of his life. Small kindnesses accumulate like raindrops, gradually eroding the barriers between their separate worlds. Lily becomes the bridge they both cross willingly, her innocent affection demanding reciprocation. When she falls asleep against Alex's chest one afternoon, neither mentions the moisture in his eyes or the way his hand trembles slightly as it rests protectively on her small back. For the first time, he didn't want someone to leave. The realization struck Alex with unexpected clarity as he watched Olivia teaching Lily to walk in the garden, the child's determined steps matched by her mother's patient encouragement. He recognized in Olivia the same intelligence and determination that had driven his own success, but tempered with a compassion his ambition had never allowed. In Lily, he saw innocence uncorrupted by the world's cruelties, a reminder of what needed protection. Alex Grayson, who had built walls around his heart after losing everyone who mattered, found those defenses crumbling in the face of simple human connection. The mansion he had filled with expensive emptiness was becoming a home. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like returning to a place he'd forgotten existed, but someone else would do anything to keep her from staying. The text arrived while Olivia was helping Miriam prepare dinner, Lily contentedly playing with measuring cups on the kitchen floor. The phone, a basic model Alex had given her for emergencies, chimed with an unfamiliar number. Olivia opened the message to find a photo. Alex at dinner with an elegant blonde woman, their heads close together in intimate conversation. The timestamp showed yesterday evening, when Alex had claimed to be working late. Below the image, a message. "You really think you know him?" Olivia stared at the screen, her heart sinking as familiar doubts flooded back. The woman was beautiful, sophisticated, clearly Alex's equal in ways Olivia could never be. The cozy kitchen suddenly felt like an elaborate stage set, her role temporary and disposable. Trauma whispered its familiar warnings. Trust no one, expect betrayal, protect yourself first. Lily's happy babbling seemed to come from a great distance, as Olivia's mind spiraled through implications and escape plans. When Alex returned home, Olivia confronted him, phone extended with the damning evidence. "Who sent this doesn't matter," she said, voice surprisingly steady. "What matters is whether it's true." She had rehearsed this moment all afternoon, determined to face whatever came with dignity intact. Alex took the phone, studied the image, then handed it back without defensiveness. "Emily Winters," he said simply, "Chief Financial Officer at Meridian Healthcare. We're discussing a potential acquisition of several pediatric clinics." He reached for his laptop, opened his calendar to show the scheduled meeting. "I can introduce you if you'd like. She's brilliant, ruthless in negotiations, and happily married to her wife of 15 years. He showed Olivia additional photos from his phone, the wider angle of the same dinner including 3 other executives, all clearly in a business discussion. "What else would you like to know?" he asked, not unkindly. Olivia stood frozen, embarrassment and relief battling for dominance. "I should have trusted you," Olivia whispered, shame coloring her cheeks. Alex shook his head slightly. "No, trust is earned, not owed. You've had good reasons to be cautious." He considered the phone still displaying the message. This was calculated, sent to create exactly the reaction it achieved. Someone wants you to leave. Olivia's mind raced through possibilities. Few people knew she was staying with Alex. Fewer still would care enough to interfere. "A disgruntled employee, perhaps," she suggested. Alex's expression hardened slightly. "Perhaps, though the timing suggests someone with current access to information about this household." He made a call, instructing Carlos to review security footage, check recent staff changes, restrict delivery access. The calm efficiency of his response steadied Olivia more than reassurances would have. He wasn't dismissing her fears. He was addressing them directly without question or hesitation. Her heart sinks. Trauma tells her to run. This feels like Christopher all over again, a man offering safety only to reveal deception, yet something stops her from packing immediately. Alex's transparency, his lack of defensiveness, the logical explanations, all different from the pattern she'd experienced before. Over dinner, she observes him closely, searching for signs of irritation or impatience at her suspicion. Instead, she finds only concern and a quiet determination to resolve the mystery. "Why aren't you angry?" she asks finally. He considers the question seriously. "Because your caution keeps Lily safe. Because you've earned the right to question what seems too good to be true. Because anger serves no purpose here." His honesty disarms her. After Lily is asleep, Alex shows Olivia documents on his laptop. The healthcare acquisition, Emily's professional credentials, the strategic plan for expanding pediatric services. "I have nothing to hide from you," he says simply. The words hang between them, an offering of transparency she never received from anyone else. The next morning brings another message. Financial records suggesting Alex's company exploits healthcare providers, forcing clinic closures for profit. Olivia studies the documents over coffee, recognizing manipulation in the selective presentation of data. Her medical training included enough business courses to spot the deliberate misinterpretation of standard acquisition practices. When Alex joins her, she shows him the message without comment. He reviews it calmly, then opens his laptop to display complete context: how the acquisitions preserved services in underserved communities, improved doctor retention, expanded access for disadvantaged patients. "Someone's testing your trust in me," he observes. The question is why now? What's changed? Olivia considers this. 2 weeks in his home, growing comfortable, beginning to imagine possibilities beyond day-to-day survival. "They see what I'm starting to feel," she admits softly, "that I'm no longer just passing through." Alex's eyes meet hers, something unspoken passing between them. "And that threatens them," he concludes. "I received a message too," Alex reveals later that day, showing Olivia his phone. The text contains a background check on her, highlighting her departure from medical school, financial troubles, even her time in shelters. "They're trying to convince me you're using me for stability," he explains, his voice matter-of-fact rather than accusatory. Olivia feels sick at the detailed account of her failures displayed so clinically. "It's all true," she acknowledges, chin lifting slightly. "I won't deny any of it." Alex nods. "I know. You've hidden nothing from me. That's what makes this so ineffective." He deletes the message without hesitation. By evening, Carlos has traced both messages to a former household employee, dismissed months earlier for inappropriate financial activities, still bitter about his termination. Alex doesn't get angry when Olivia suggests additional verification. Instead, he arranges for Carlos to show her the security footage, employment records, and termination documentation. "You have every reason not to trust anyone," he says gently, "but I'm staying if you'll let me." The simple declaration, offered without pressure or expectation, reaches past Olivia's defenses in a way grand gestures never could. She'd been forced to doubt everyone, but maybe, just maybe, he was the exception. The thought terrified and exhilarated her simultaneously. Later that night, after the household had quieted, Olivia stood in the nursery watching Lily sleep. The stuffed elephant Alex had sent that first day remained clutched in her tiny hands, a symbol of unexpected kindness that had grown into something neither of them had anticipated. Trust didn't come easily after betrayal. It built slowly, tested by challenges, strengthened by honesty. Alex had faced her doubts without defensiveness, offered proof without resentment, respected her caution without judgment. Unlike Christopher, who had isolated her from support systems, Alex encouraged her reconnection with former colleagues, arranged interviews at medical facilities, supported her independence even as he offered security. Olivia touched the delicate music box that now played Lily to sleep each night. Perhaps the real test wasn't whether she could trust Alex, but whether she could trust herself, her judgment, her instincts, her capacity to recognize genuine connection after being so thoroughly deceived. The irony wasn't lost on her. A man who had everything material had somehow recognized what she and Lily needed most. Wasn't financial security, but restoration of dignity and possibility. 1 week later, Olivia descended the stairs to find Alex waiting in the kitchen, morning sunlight streaming through the windows. Lily babbled happily in her high chair, attempting to feed herself with moderate success. Miriam bustled about preparing breakfast, her movements choreographed with practiced efficiency. The domestic scene struck Olivia as both ordinary and extraordinary, the normal morning routine that had somehow become precious in its regularity. Alex looked up from his coffee, something uncharacteristically hesitant in his expression. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. Olivia approached cautiously, still conditioned to expect complications, despite the growing trust between them. Alex held out his hand, palm up, revealing a small silver key attached to a simple ring. "It's not just for the house," he said quietly. "It's for whatever this becomes." Olivia stared at the key, its silver surface catching the morning light. The weight of his words settled between them, an offering without demands, possibility without pressure. With trembling fingers, she accepted the key, the metal warm from his palm. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, emotion tightening her throat. Alex smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his usually serious face. "You don't have to say anything. Not yet." Lily chose that moment to drop her spoon with a clatter, breaking the tension with her delighted laughter. Alex bent to retrieve it, his movements comfortable and familiar now in their shared routine. Miriam pretended to be occupied with the coffee pot, but Olivia caught the older woman's pleased smile. Something was shifting in this house, walls becoming home, strangers becoming family, separate stories weaving into a shared narrative. The key felt both substantial and symbolic in Olivia's hand, access not just to physical space, but to a future she'd stopped believing possible. The envelope arrived that afternoon via courier, official letterhead from Madison Medical School, visible through the thin paper. Olivia stared at it, heart racing as possibilities collided in her mind. With Alex and Miriam watching expectantly, she finally opened it, fingers unsteady. "We are pleased to inform you that your application for readmission has been accepted," she read aloud, voice faltering as disbelief gave way to overwhelming joy. "Full scholarship for the remaining year. In recognition of your exceptional academic record and potential contribution to pediatric medicine." She looked up, tears blurring her vision. Alex stood by the window, his expression carefully neutral despite the pleasure evident in his eyes. "Did you—" she began. He shook his head slightly. "I only made a call. They reviewed your original academic records. The decision was theirs." Miriam smiled. She'd seen Alex make the call, witnessed his passionate advocacy on Olivia's behalf, known he'd also established a private trust for Lily's future care, while Olivia completed her education. But some gifts were best given quietly, their value measured in opportunity rather than acknowledgement. "Daddy!" The word, clear and unmistakable, silenced the room. Lily stood holding the coffee table edge, tiny arms stretched toward Alex, the simple word transforming his expression completely. Olivia's breath caught as she watched emotions cascade across his usually controlled features, surprise, wonder, and something deeper that looked remarkably like love. Without hesitation, Alex lifted Lily into his arms, her small hands immediately finding their familiar place against his face. "Hello, little one," he whispered, voice roughened with emotion he no longer tried to hide. Olivia felt tears spill onto her cheeks, the moment crystallizing everything that had changed since that rainy morning. From her position by the doorway, Miriam discreetly wiped her own eyes. Lily patted Alex's cheek with determined affection, repeating her new word with clear satisfaction at the response it generated. Olivia moved to join them, the scholarship letter still clutched in her hand, proof of past achievements and future possibilities. The three of them stood together in the sunlight, forming a tableau that would have seemed impossible just weeks ago. Later that evening, Olivia found Alex in his study, reviewing documents with his customary focus. She hesitated in the doorway, still learning to navigate these evolving boundaries. He looked up immediately, setting aside his work with an ease that highlighted another change, how his priorities had subtly shifted since their arrival. "Lily's asleep," she said softly. "I wanted to thank you for everything." The words felt inadequate against the magnitude of what he'd given them. Safety, possibility, a future. Alex shook his head slightly. "I should be thanking you," he replied, surprising her. At her questioning look, he continued, "This house hasn't been a home since my sister died. I filled it with things instead of people, success instead of meaning." He gestured toward the window where rain had begun falling again, gentle now, rather than threatening. "You and Lily brought life back into these rooms, reminded me what matters." Olivia moved further into the study, drawn by the rare personal admission. "What happened to her?" she asked gently. "Your sister?" Alex turned toward the window, his reflection in the glass revealing carefully controlled pain. "Caroline was brilliant, pre-med like you. She fell for someone who isolated her, controlled her. By the time I realized, she wouldn't accept help." His voice remained steady, but Olivia could see the cost of this sharing in the tension of his shoulders. "She took her own life 7 years ago. I found her." The simple statement contained worlds of anguish. Olivia moved to stand beside him, their reflections joining in the darkened glass. "That's why you stopped that morning," she realized aloud. "You saw her in me." Alex nodded slightly. "But you're not her," he said quietly. "You fought. You survived. You protected Lily through impossible circumstances." He turned to face her directly. "You reminded me that helping others isn't just writing checks to charities. It's seeing someone struggle and stepping into it. Messy, complicated, and infinitely more valuable." He gave her a key to a house, but she gave him the key to something far greater, a life worth coming home to. Standing in the study, as rain gentled against the windows, Olivia realized the truth of what had happened since that desperate morning beneath the street lamp. Alex had offered shelter, yes, but in doing so, he had found his own way home from grief's isolation. Lily's innocent acceptance had breached defenses built over years of loss and regret, and Olivia, despite her caution and wounds, had remembered how to trust not just others, but herself. The music box played in the nursery upstairs, its melody carrying through the house that had become something more than walls and wealth. Tomorrow would bring challenges: medical school, childcare arrangements, adjustments to their evolving relationship. But tonight, in this moment of shared understanding, Olivia finally allowed herself to believe in second chances, not just for herself, but for all three of them. "Thank you for stopping that day," she whispered. Alex's hand found hers, warm and steady. "Thank you for getting in," he answered simply. Outside, the rain continued its gentle rhythm, no longer a threat, but a reminder of how their story began, and all the possibilities that lay ahead.